Hello everybody, Calabus here, back with more Hearthstone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new adventure mode, the Curse of Naxxramas, and more specifically I want to talk about one specific fight, maybe give a little tutorial, some tips for the battle that I felt was most difficult throughout the whole thing so far. What we're going to be taking a look at is heroic mode, jumping into it. Once you beat the 3 bosses on normal mode, you get to challenge them in heroic, which makes them much more difficult. For me, I got the check mark beating all 3 of them. The first 2 were fairly easy for me, actually. I was able to use just my pre-made decks that I already had on hand. I didn't have to switch anything up really too drastically to be able to beat them. However, the Spider Queen, Maexxna, I'm not sure if that's how you say her name or not, she was much more difficult. I actually had a tailor make a deck just suited around beating her because she's the reason why she's mainly difficult to beat with regular decks is because of her hero ability. If you check out her hero ability, it's called Web Wrap, and it does is it returns 2 random enemy minions to your opponent's hand for 0 mana. So she returns 2 of your creatures to your hand every single turn. Now with the regular deck, it'll be hard to beat her because you play minions and you try to buff them up, or you try to attack with them, or you try to use them as taunts to protect yourself, but they don't stay on the board for more than a turn because she's always returning them. So the way I went around this, I circumvented this, was to make a warrior deck based off weapons and charges, because she can't return your weapons to your hand, so you always get that damage, and charged creatures get the chance to attack her before they get returned. So we're going to go ahead and jump into a battle. We're going to talk about some of the mechanics that she plays with, and try to give some tips on how I beat her. For the most part, it's custom warrior. We're going to load him up. You're looking for a couple conditions to set as win conditions. For me, getting Leroy Jenkins is the most important card because he's going to be doing a lot of the charge damage, and he sets up your second win condition. Your second win condition is to fill her board up with minions that all do 1 damage. If you can't get Leroy early and you can't get her board filled up with 1/1 minions, it becomes nearly impossible to beat her, at least with this deck that I got. So I'm going to pretty much, right now, I'm tossing everything in the hopes of drawing a Leroy, because you need to get him by turn 4 to be able to set a pace that it's going to allow you to win. I didn't get Leroy, but I got a shield block for turn 3, so I could try to do another draw for him if I haven't picked him up by then. But let's go and talk about the actual boss, the difference between normal and heroic. In normal mode, she has 30 life. In heroic, she now has 45, so you have to do a lot more damage to kill her. Her hero ability in normal mode costs 2 and only returns 1 minion to the hand. Now it's free and it returns 2 minions. The important thing to know about this, however, is this hero power must be used every turn. It's on auto cast, and it's always cast at the beginning of her turn, which is hugely important. If I was to play Leroy, attack to her face, then it's her turn. Her ability is going to automatically send Leroy back to my hand before she's able to use any minions to kill him. And I don't want her minions to kill Leroy. Also, when I play Leroy, it's going to add 2 whelps with 1 attack to her board, which is also important because I want her board to be filled up with creatures that all do 1 damage. Right now she has 2 spiders that she starts off with 1 damage, and when they die, they summon 2 spiders with 1 attack as well. So it kind of helps to have these guys on the board if you have to kill them and then use the 2 spiders to fill up the space, because you're trying to fill her board up with creatures, 7 creatures with 1 attack. If you fill up her board with 7 creatures, all with 1 attack, that means she's going to do 7 damage to you every turn. But that's all she's going to do. You never kill those minions. You want those minions to always stay alive, because if she has 7 minions, when she has more mana, she can't summon any of her big creatures. She can't summon her sea giants or any of her taunts, which you don't want her playing those big ones. So, as far as I know, and you also know you're only going to take 7 damage each turn, because she doesn't have any spells that I think do direct damage. Her only spells like kill minions outright, but I mean, unless she wants to kill her own minion, she won't be using those spells. So we're trying to fill up her board with minions that do 1 damage. Now usually for her turn, she always has the coin, and usually we hope that she coins out a spider on her first turn. We don't want her to save her coin for anything bigger. So we hope there's the coin, and now we're hoping for a creeper. Let's see if she summons. Alright. So far everything's perfect aside from the fact that we don't have Leroy. Everything's going as well as it pretty much can. Alright, we still don't got Leroy. We're just going to armor up. Next turn we're going to shield block to try to get Leroy. For this turn right here, she has 2 mana, so we're hoping that she summons another Haunted Creeper or some other creature that has 1 attack. Again, that is exactly what we wanted to see. She now has 4 creatures on the board that all do 1 attack. We're hoping for Leroy again. Still didn't pull him out. We're going to try to draw him with our shield block. Alright, we got another shield block, but we didn't get Leroy. Alright, we're going to end our turn. Now, this next play that she makes is going to be kind of the play that makes or breaks our whole strategy. She has 3 mana, and usually when she has 3 mana, she plays 1 or 2 cards. She either plays the Shade of Naxxramas, which is the 2/2 creature that has stealth and it gets buffed up every turn, or she plays the Gargoyle, which is the 1/4 creature. We're hoping she plays the Gargoyle and gets the 1/4 creature. If she gets the Gargoyle, then she's going to have 5 creatures all with 1 attack, and if I draw Leroy off the top deck, I'll play Leroy. He'll summon 2 whelps, which will give her 7 creatures all with 1 attack, which is exactly what we want. So right now, we're hoping she plays a Gargoyle over anything else. If we see the Shade, then it would be like, alright, Direwolf. That is not what we wanted. She added a spinner. Kind of helps that she put the spinner next to the Wolf, so this guy didn't get the 2 damage, but the Wolf right there is actually hurting us. It's not the ideal situation. Plus, we didn't get Leroy. So things we could do here, we could either shield block and get more armor. We could hit him in the face with our Corcoran. We could use the Corcoran to kill the Wolf. And then hope that she summons something that has 1 attack, which she may or may not do. I mean, it's kind of what we're going to go ahead and just go for. We'll get sets. That takes away the damage there. We're taking less damage. That gets sent back to my hand right away, so she doesn't get a chance to kill it. Hopefully she plays a Gargoyle as well. Oh, an egg. So now if she doesn't kill her own egg, that's actually even better than having a Gargoyle because it does 0. But we don't want her to kill that. Alright, again, we're hoping for Leroy here. Still didn't pull up a Leroy. Alright, we're actually going to shield block to try to get Leroy. And we're just going to armor up. End turn. Now we're going to see if she has a kill spell to kill her own egg. If not, she's only going to do 6 damage to me. Alright, so as long as this egg stays alive, I know that every turn I'm only going to take 6 damage. See, she can't do anything besides that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and play our charge guy. We want to keep our armor up. We'll save our enrages for other ones. We'll just hit her in the face. End turn. Rather have Leroy in the hand. Or if we pick up the charge spell, that would be good as well. I have 9 cards, so I'm going to have to use my inner rages probably, so I have spaces. Alright, there's actually a charge, so I actually could pull off a big combo here. We're going to go with Raging Worgen. We're going to give our Worgen charge so he could attack. And now we're going to use an Inner Rage on the Worgen. Now I could use another Inner Rage and give him another 2 attack. But I kind of want to save that for a turn 8 Gramage. So instead we're just going to hit him. Hit him again. End turn. Now again, because she has a full board, she automatically sends my creature back first. That's always automatic. As long as you don't have 3 minions on here, she'll always return your 2 minions. You don't want to have 3 minions because you don't want to have them leave a minion on the field that they could run their people in to kill. Alright, we're actually going to Gramage here. Now we know they're going to do 6 damage, so here comes Gramage. He has charge. Let's go ahead and do his inner rage on him. And we're going to hit him for 12. And end turn. Now again, she should only be able to do the 6 damage to me, which is going to bring me down to 7 life. She can't play any minions, and unless she has a kill card that she's going to kill her own egg with, can't do that. Alright, so ways to do damage now. We could do Gorehowl for 7. I think we're going to do this turn, we're going to put out our Reaper. And we'll do our charge. Yeah, we'll do our charge guy. Alright, hit him. Alright, now as long as she doesn't do something crazy, she should only be able to do the 6 damage to me as far as I know. I don't know if she's going to have any other spells or anything else she could pull off. Hopefully all she could do is her 6 damage, and then it's our game to win. She can't play any creatures, and hopefully she doesn't have any spells that's going to do the 1 damage or anything, so it ends her turn. Now it's our turn. Now we get the Leroy. So now you pretty much have the choice. I mean, it would have been a lot easier if you had Leroy doing the damage earlier, giving him buffs with the Abusive Sergeant or whatever. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to equip Gorehowl, because why not? We're going to make Gorehowl a little bit stronger. Why not? And we're going to hit her in the face for the win. Before I do that, like I said, the keys to winning this way is making sure her board all has 1/1 minions, or minions that do as little damage as possible. Getting the egg, this is actually like only the first time that or the second time that I got the egg, so that's even better than having the minions with 1 attack. But when you have the 1 damage minions on the field, you could kind of count how much each turn she's going to do to you, because if it's filled up the board, as long as you don't kill any, then you basically get to know how much damage. So I knew she was going to do 6 damage to me every turn, because she didn't have a way to do direct damage, and she can't play any other creatures. Also, it's very important as well that you remember, never put 3 creatures on the board, because once she gets to this kind of mana, she's wanting to play her 5, 6, 7 cost minions, but she can't. So if you put 3 minions on the board and they return 2 of them, she's can't wait to run one of her low cost minions on the board to sacrifice it to make room for her bigger ones. So it's always important, always keep only 2 minions on the board. Make sure you have the shield blocks to give yourself health, and kill her. Boom. Alright. Yeah, it's impossible. So that's how I defeated her. Weapons, charge creatures, anything that does buff. We're going to take a real quick look at that warrior list, that warrior deck, so you could kind of see what I have in there, and see what works and what doesn't. Go to custom warrior. Alright, I have inner rages. These are pretty much must in here. They help inner rage your Worgen. They help inner rage Grimage. They also could just inner rage anybody. Adding that 2 damage is very helpful. Upgrade for when you have a lot of weapons in the deck, so you make it a little bit stronger if you have the extra mana to spare. Whirlwind, in case you have to enrage something else. I only got 1 in there because you're not trying to clear their board. You don't want to kill any of their 1/1 minions. So this card maybe could be taken out for something that does more damage. Abusive Sergeants, the little buff to the minion that you play a minion with charge, then you play Abusive Sergeant behind it. Like you play Leroy for 4. Then for 1 more mana, you put Abusive Sergeant so that he does 2 more damage, and you attack, and you get that extra damage. But it's also important to remember, you don't play 2 Abusive Sergeants. You don't play Leroy and then put 2 Abusive Sergeants on the field, because then you'll have 3 minions, and only 2 of them are going to get set back. So you play Leroy and 1 Abusive Sergeant, and if you have an extra Abusive Sergeant, you just hold on to it until you have a turn of lethal. You never want to get the 3 minions on the board. 2 Fiery War Axes. This is good damage to the face that they can't get rid of. Also with upgrade. Also, if you needed to, if you wanted to fill up the board faster with 1/1 minions, you could use your axe to get rid of the spider that summons 2 more spiders with 1/1. As you saw in my matchup, I actually used an axe charge, I think, to kill the wolf. so that I was able to kill the wolf and then stop that damage. Heroic Strike, just more damage. It's just a 2-cost extra 4 damage that you could use near the end. Rampage, if whenever you're hurting your own minions, like you're doing an inner rage to your Worgen or to Grommash or something, and you have the later turns and you have the extra mana to 2 mana to do the rampage, this extra buff could help a lot, especially on the Worgen. Like on turn 6, you saw me do the combo where I played the Raging Worgen. Then you have to give him charge because he'll just get sent back to his hand if you don't. So charge is another, charge is another important card in the deck. But you have the Worgen for 3. You put charge on him for a cost of 6, and then you inner rage him which is 0. So then you got him up to a point where he's an 8 creature with Wind Fury, so he's doing 16. But if you have another 2 mana and it's turn 8, you add Rampage to him, and then all of a sudden you're just buffing him up to 11, so he's doing like 22 on turn 8. So you could kind of try to set up a 1-turn combo on turn 8 if you could get him down to 22 life before that. So Rampage helps with the injured minions. Cruel Taskmaster also helps, gives a buff, and could injure anybody from the Grommash to the Worgens. The charges, like I said, these are pretty much has to be in there if you want to activate your Worgens or any other creature that doesn't have charge. Like if you want to get the Frothing Berserker in there or anything like that, you put the charge basically for those combos, because I probably don't even need Warsong Commander in there. I just put them in there in case I have to do the Abusive Sergeants or something, but probably not necessary. Probably remove that for something else. Shield blocks are also very important. Like I said, you saw me digging a lot for Leroy. Also, it gives you a lot of armor to help you survive the early turns of trying to get the board set up to where they have all 1-attack minions. Arcane Golem, it's just another charge creature. You could probably take out the Warsong Commander and just add another Arcane Golem. Maybe take out the Frothing Berserker and add something else that might like buff your creature. But I have Frothing Berserker just initially. Oops, took him out. But there's other cards you could put in there. Raging Worgen is a big combo wombo. Like I said, you could basically turn 6, hit him for like 16 damage. Even later add extra cards like Rampage onto him and it makes him even stronger. Mortal Strike, you could probably add another Mortal Strike instead of maybe the Warsong Commander or something. Just more damage. And when they got you down low, you might be on turn 8. You might be down to 12 health or less. So you're actually doing 2-6. So like 2 fireballs. Corcoran Elite, just a charge creature that you could get if you haven't got your Leroy yet. Just a way to get damage when you need it. Leroy Jenkins, like I said, one of the most important cards in the deck. Not only is it a higher damage charge instead of the Corcoran Elite, but it also summons the 2/1/1 whelps, which means if you play him on turn 4 and they already got like 4 or 5 1/1 whelps on the field, when you play your Leroy, you add the 2 whelps, and all of a sudden you got his board filled up before he has a chance to play anything big. So he's helpful in that he charges, he's helpful that he does a lot of damage, and he's helpful by setting up the condition of filling up your opponent's board with the creatures with 1 attack. 2 Arcanite Reapers, because they can't return Reapers to your hand, so they're just like a really strong minion, just do the damage. The Brawl in there is just in case of crazy emergencies that I was trying to do, if I was trying to do a board clear or something, but not necessary. You could probably remove that for something else, maybe another weapon or something. Maybe a Spiteful Smith, if you wanted to give a Spiteful Smith charge and enrage them, and then that buffs your weapon as well. Spiteful Smith would probably be a good add to this, because you play a Smith for 6, you give him charge for 3 more, so that's 9. You enrage him, so that he's charging for like 6 damage, and he's buffing up your weapon as well. I mean, it could be something you add. Got a Gorehall on there, and of course you saw me do the combo with Grommash, with the Grommash on turn 8 with the enrage. It's just the way to do damage. Like I said, the main keys you're trying to do is you're trying to fill up your board with the minions that do the 1 damage, and you're trying to do the charge and weapon damage to your opponent's face. For the most part, if you have Leroy Jenkins, I think he's a big piece to fill this deck around. And when you're playing the matchup, you're really trying to hope that if you don't get Leroy in your hand, or you don't have like a shield block to try to draw him on turn 3 or 4, there's a good chance that if you don't get the board set up the way you want it to, you should probably just quit by turn 5 or 6 and not drag out the match. If you don't get the board set up with the win conditions, I would say just keep resetting it until you do get the card draw that you need. Anyways, that's how I beat her. I'm sure there's a lot of other ways to beat her. I've also tried with the mage, a mage deck, where I tried doing not playing minions, but I tried just using a lot of spells, use a lot of freezing minions to try to slow them down and control the minions, and then try to do board wipes with Flame Strike and Blizzard. But it's a lot more difficult to try to pull it off than actually just getting the right cards with the warrior deck. But I got fairly close several times with the mage. An important thing to also remember is mirror image. Let me actually go to the mirror image. If you play this on turn 1, you summon the 2 mirror images, and then when it's her turn 1, she returns the mirror images to your hand, and you still actually keep the 2/0/2 taunts, but they cost 0 to cast. So you could play them every turn if you want to like help protect yourself from the minions and from the return. So if you had a mage and you had 2 mirror images and maybe a mana worm as your starting cards, you would play mirror image. She would return your 2 mirror on turn 1. She would return your 2 minions to your hand, so you would have 2s of them in your hand for 0 cost. Then your next turn you would have 2 mana. You would play the mana worm. Then you would play the mirror image behind the mana worm to get 2 mirror images. Then you would play the free ones in your hand, so you'll wind up with the 4. They don't count as spells, but they count as minions. But there'll be 4/0/2 taunts, and you'll have a 3/3 mana worm. And then when her turn starts, she would return 2 cards to your hand, and you would just hope that the 2 cards that got returned would be 2 of the taunts, and your mana worm would stay on the field to like stay on and try to do damage. And then you could, your next turn, you play spells to buff up the mana worm more, and then you keep playing your free mirror images because they keep returning them to your hand, and then you just keep returning to the board while your other mirror images help protect you. It's one way to try to win. A lot of spells, mirror images, mana worms. One way to try to pull off the victory if you don't have Leroy Jenkins to try to pull off warrior combos. Anyways, that's how I would defeat her on heroic mode. If you have other ways, you could leave those suggestions, other decks, in comments. I would appreciate it. I'd like to thank everybody for watching. My name has been Calabus, and this has been Hearthstone, and I will catch you next time. Now everybody go out there, kill that Spider Queen.